Yes, major history, and I just received word that President-elect Donald J. Trump, nominee to be Attorney General, Mr. Matt Gaetz, has removed himself from consideration for that office after great turmoil and controversy surrounding his nominations, allegations of sexual impropriety, alleged drug use, uh, having intimate relations with minors, among other things. Uh, he was under an investigation when he was a member representative of the House till he stepped down when Donald Trump nominated him to be Attorney General. Now it goes without saying that the highest law enforcement officer in the country should have a reputation above reproach with any type of cloud of uncertainty or alleged misbehavior surrounding his potential candidacy for that office. Apparently, Matt Gaetz didn't meet that bar, and he will probably face insurmountable odds getting approved in the Congress. Actually, his nomination was probably dead in the water, or dead, not even dead on arrival because it hadn't arrived yet. But apparently, President-elect has nominated another individual for that office, former District Attorney General of Florida. I believe her name is Pat Bondi, for the office of Attorney General of the United States. And she seemed to be a more likely a prospect to pass that hurdle and get approved. I always thought his nomination of Mr. Gaetz was highly problematic given the multiple cases and surrounding his tenure and as a representative in Congress, and, uh, and apparently he has decided to step aside, and more than likely his current nominee, as I said before, has a much better chance of approval. However, saying that, several other of his nominations are also very suspect. With the with recent loss, Democratic Senate seat apparently to Mr. McCormick in Pennsylvania, winning the Senate race against Bob Casey, it solidifies their Republican control of the Senate and make it a prospect of his other nominees will probably get approval and will succeed, whereas Mr. Gaetz more than likely would not. So this is where it stands now, and we'll see how this plays out in the near future. Thank you. Yes, some major history, and according to the latest reports, the Biden administration, which is in the waning days of its administration, soon to vacate office to the president-elect, Donald J. Trump, come January. Apparently, the Biden administration has agreed to allow the government of Ukraine to use long-range missiles uh, against the Russian Federation in the operational area of Kursk, which is a precedent-setting move which the government of the United States has not adhered to previously. And ostensibly the reason behind it is that the Russian government has recruited and armed North Korean soldiers in large numbers in their operational area of Kursk to supplement its forces. Now, the United States is technically at war with the DPRK, as the government of North Korea is known, since the 1950-53 war. And that's ostensibly the reason behind it. But obviously, North Korea is a long way from Ukraine, and even a longer way from the United States. To my mind, this is really a serious and potentially dangerous escalation in the current conflict between Ukraine and the Russian Federation. And against warnings from the government of Russia, the United States has finally acceded to Ukraine's request for this additional assistance, regardless of the warnings they had received. So in my assessment, while this is a event of serious concern, it may be deemed a kind of Russian roulette on the part of the government of Ukraine and the United States. But I do not think, or at least I hope not, that we'll bring the United States and Russia in direct confrontation. As it is that the United States government of Biden is on its way out in a very short period of time, and the incoming administration of Donald J. Trump has signaled that it's willing to curtail and de-escalate United States support, material support for the government of Ukraine in its current confrontation with the Russians. So when a new administration comes in January, they may well decide to end this, or at least draw down the level of support the government of Ukraine is currently receiving, including its potential use of these long-range missiles in the Russian territory. So I don't believe that this game of Russian roulette that the Ukrainian government's plan will portend a future confrontation between the United States and Russia for the reasons I've just outlined. But these current developments do require a lot of monitoring, and hopefully this will not lead to the potential and dangerous escalation of this current conflict. Thank you. Yes, major history again. After a brief hiatus, about a week or so since my last podcast, President-elect Donald J. Trump. Kind of a follow-up on that. Decided to do another podcast on that subject and his potential or his election as President of the United States reminds me of a book by George Orwell called 1984, who's the arch adversary in this book is a character nicknamed, I guess, Big Brother. Big Brother has in his possession all the levers of government, even all the media in his possession, and he has full control of state power and or all of his citizens. The protagonist fights vigorously against this regime, but eventually he falls into line of lockstep, and paradoxically, at the very end, at least in the movie, he proclaims, "Long live Big Brother, long live Big Brother." And see some parallels in this situation. I had a long time buddy of mine who, quite surprisingly, has become, supporter of Donald J. Trump and his MAGA movement. He doesn't say so directly, but for all intents and purposes, he follows the MAGA line. And it's a saying that birds of a feather flock together. And we often or should judge a person by the company they keep. The president-elect has recently nominated Ms. Tulsi Gabbard to be head of national intelligence. Very interesting and perplexing individual, who, by the way, I understand may have been the first Hindu member of Congress from Hawaii. And interestingly, the government of India, led by a Hindu nationalist government under Narendra Modi, and there are many in India who are among of Donald J. Trump's loudest and most vociferous supporters, probably in line with their geopolitical worldview that Donald J. Trump may be an ally against their regional opponents, including Muslim Pakistan. Also, Donald Trump has also appointed Mr. Vivek Ramaswamy, also a Hindu, to co-chair a governmental agency. It's not their religion that is of concern to me, but rather their politics, which aligns with a very neoconservative, isolationist, narrow-minded perspective. These ideological viewpoints are shared with several other leaders around the world that Donald J. Trump has chosen to compliment or express his admiration for, including Vladimir Putin, Kim Il-sung of Korea, Viktor Orban of Hungary, and the recently elected president of Argentina. So I think in the near future, we should take very good care to make sure our constitutional guarantees in this country are preserved. Or as George Orwell warns in his book 1984, it could be swept away by a big brother type of government that tramples on people's liberty and constitutional rights and freedoms. So this is something we should be on guard for and be very mindful that there is a potentiality for this occurring in the near future, actually after January 20th of next year. Thank you. Yes, this is major history, and I'm doing you might say, a follow-up report on the past election, November 5th, 2024, the re-election of Donald J. Trump, office of President of the United States. One thing I noticed about the election and the hours leading up to his re-election, there were some calls in his quarters by some of his supporters that the election process in several states, I think in Georgia among them, was being compromised, being tampered with, and they said it was going to be a repetition of the so-called stolen election of 2020. But I noticed as the hours wore on and the results start coming in, these different reports dwindled away and diminished. And I haven't heard any significant reports of vote tampering after the election. So it seems to me is a lot of rank hypocrisy and immorality from the ethically challenged Trump campaign for re-election. When he lost several years ago, it was a corrupt Biden administration, a corrupt Biden people that engineered a rigged election. And now, here in 2024, it's all well and fine and good since they had won. So where's this deep state Biden administration manipulation now that they long complained about? So-called stolen election in 2020. So it seems to me they're exercising a lot of selective judgment, and these charges of manipulation that they claim and were proven to be false, yet they persisted in it. So these Trump supporters, the Trump administration, their allies, has shown to be serial manipulators of the facts. they cherry pick and choose what they want to choose and leave alone what they don't. So what's done is done, and evidently we're in for another 4 years of Trump administration. To many of ours disappointment and regret. Apparently, the charges have been leveled at him. The unaccompanied trials will probably be put on hold for the duration of his next administration. However, it doesn't exclude the possibility of the impeachment option, which he still may be liable for, as he had been impeached twice before. And I wouldn't exclude that possibility, though the odds are not favorable to that. It seems as if the Republicans have taken control of the Senate and may have control of the House also. So impeachment, in fact, is like a remote possibility. But be as it may, the Trump administration will be in his second term, and we'll just have to see what develops. Thank you. Well, major history. Well, the United States had a very historic election last night, and to the dismay of many, probably myself included, former President Donald J. Trump has apparently been elected again to the office of President of the United States. The pollsters had predicted a more tighter race than it actually was, even in the battleground states. In my assessment, the Democrats suffer from several liabilities in their campaign. One was the current President Joe Biden, his inability to stay in the campaign as he originally anticipated because of several deficits on his part, not excluding old age. So the decision was made for him to step aside. But more than likely, this was a rather late move, which allowed Donald J. Trump to gain a head start in the campaign. So Kamala Harris was working probably against a time lag, you might say, trying to catch up to the Trump campaign. Another possible liability that she was too, the Trump campaign was able to identify her too closely with the Biden administration. And this was another possible reason voters probably shied away from voting for her. Also, according to the data I read, the turnout for the Democrats was lower than anticipated, even among minority groups, significantly lower than in 2020. The turnout should have been at least the same or greater than it was in 2020 in order to defeat Donald J. Trump. That was another factor. Also, the third parties is yet to be determined whether the third party candidates had affected the campaign, but I do believe that it might have hurt the Democrats' chances. That the possibility that it exists that may have had a negative effect on the Democrats' campaign. So all in all, it was a somewhat surprising result, but reinforces my conviction that this country has yet to divorce itself from its legacy of institutionalized racism, uh, supremacy based on race, based on class, based on wealth, and the American voting public have made a decision which I believe in the long term will have very uh, negative and harmful effects for many Americans. Now, hopefully, my assessment will not prove to be correct, but I believe that will be the case. We will soon find out in short order, come January 2025. Thank you.